ambushed them. The patrol nabbed Revere, and an officer clapped his pistol to my head, called me by name, and told me he would blow my brains out. After some questioning, Paul and the soldiers heard a volley fired, coming from Lexington. It spooked the redcoats. The militia was out. The soldiers took Paul's horse, let him go, and bolted away into the dark. The moon threw a pale light on the wet ground, and Revere was able to make his way by its cast. He stumbled through the headstones of a graveyard and some pastures until he came again into Lexington. After Paul's arrival, Adams and Hancock decided to leave Lexington for Wubbin, a nearby village, far enough away from the imminent trouble. Paul joined them, saw that they arrived safely, and then made his way back to Lexington in the early morning hours. Once back, he walked toward Buckman Tavern, and a man on a full gallop told us the troops were coming up the rocks. Another rider confirmed it. The bristling tips of British gun barrels would pierce the horizon any minute. The militiamen readied themselves. The fight was upon them. Paul's account was exactly what Belknap wanted to hear and would undoubtedly make a superb addition to the Society's collection. But there was so much more to the story. Chapter 1. Arrivals, in which the forebears of our hero trade the trials and hardships of the old world for the uncertainties and hopes of the new, starting our story rolling in the boisterous town of Boston, in the British colony of Massachusetts. This land grows weary of its inhabitants. That's what John Winthrop thought of his home. England was too small, geographically, theologically, politically, and economically. He couldn't stand the cramp, and the feeling was mutual. England couldn't stand him. Winthrop was a Puritan and ran afoul of the Act of Uniformity, which outlawed doctrinal squabbles, something at which the Puritans excelled, in the Anglican Church. It came to this. Winthrop, a one-time government lawyer, needed new digs, preferably where he could structure a little government of his own. So in 1630, he gained control of the Massachusetts Bay Company and led a pack of Puritans to America. Picture Moses leaving Egypt with the children of Israel, except in this case the promised land was the wilderness. The plan was to settle in Salem. Some pilgrims were already there, and Winthrop figured they could farm alongside. But that plan was hatched several thousand miles away, and when Winthrop and company actually arrived, they realized that clearing the dense woodland was too big a chore. They could hunt the game-thick forest, but they were largely inexperienced, and Winthrop was a klutz with a gun. As a young man, he gave up hunting because, "I have gotten nothing at all towards my cost and labor," a roundabout way of admitting that he was a lousy shot. So, down with Salem. After further scouting the New England coast, Winthrop decided on the peninsula of Tri-Mountain, as the earliest English settlers first called Boston. It had ample room at 700 square acres, good drinking water, and breathtaking landscape. The best feature? The mile-long, muddy finger that gripped the mainland. Boston Neck doesn't exist today as it did then. In the 17th century, before the hills were leveled into the bay to expand the landmass, the slender sinew was narrow enough to keep enemies out or inhabitants bottled in, as the British Army would later discover. The Puritans had their base of operation. Now they had to operate. England might have grown weary of its inhabitants, but fledgling colonies needed to create businesses profitable enough to survive in their new homes and enrich underwriters and benefactors in their old. Fattening British purses was a colony's reason for existence, so much so that colonies were often called plantations. Production was the whole point. Virginia had tobacco, New York had furs, and Boston had the sacred cod. It's an apt adjective. The fish is one of the earliest Christian symbols, so it makes a providential sort of sense that Winthrop and his Puritans bettered themselves through the burgeoning industry. He didn't have the foresight to keep up his hunting practice as a lad, but he was smart enough to bring shipbuilders with him to the New World. As one observation had it, the Puritans took to sea with such vigor that their commerce smelled as strongly of fish as their theology did of brimstone. By 1640, Massachusetts exported 300,000 dried and salted cod, the very foundation for Boston's future wealth and status. By the time Paul Revere's father, Apollos Rivoire, hit shore in 1716, the settlement had grown from a bedraggled band barely fit to occupy the dirt under their feet to a bustling and prosperous seaside city of nearly 15,000 inhabitants.